I want to kind of jump. I want to jump in. So let's start off with Miami, Anthony. I'm always fascinated with like the mob scene in Miami. Can you kind of paint what the Italian mob presence was like in the 80s in Miami?
It was, look, a lot of people don't realize how involved the mob was down here in South Florida. I wouldn't say that much Miami.
Yeah.
Possible. Not, I don't know what the fuck was going on down in Miami. South Florida, Broward, Hollywood.
Yeah.
Those areas, they were big. A little bit into maybe North Miami, but mostly. Yeah. And they did everything they do up New York, except for hijack the airport. You know, they weren't hijacking the airport over here. You know, there wasn't none of that shit going on. They didn't have it like that. But you name it, they had bookmaking. They were fucking stolen shit.
The usual.
Drugs. Yeah, the usual mob stuff. The only difference down here was there wasn't any territory. Like, you know, New York has the 5 boroughs and this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
This was wide open. Oh, you got one of those? What is that, a cat or dog?
Sandy.
You got one of those that like to jump in front of the fucking microphone. I got one.
Especially when you record.
He's
only when you record.
He's sneaking up on me any minute now. But it was wide open down here, and you know, anyone could do anything. There was no, you can't do this, you can't do that. But the bad thing about that was you didn't know who was who. Like I mentioned, I believe on the other podcast, was a guy, Dave Green. He was a detective for the Broward County Organized Crime Task Force, and he snuck his ass in just like fucking Donnie Brasco.
Yeah.
Because nobody knew anybody, and you know, they're all hanging out at Joe Sonkin's over there on the beach. And he walked right in and bam, he took down quite a few people.
Well, what's interesting about it though is obviously in Tampa and stuff, you had the Traficantes, you know, smaller but powerful group. So I was just always fascinated by Miami. You had the Russian mob. I even told there were some straight Sicilian mob. Obviously, the cartels were huge. Why do you think the Italian mob never really had any foothold in Miami proper?
Because the Cubans and the Colombians. Yeah. The Cubans made Miami.
Okay. Yeah. True.
The Cubans made Miami, and you're not going to come down there. I made an example the other day about Japan, with the Chinese coming from communist China, going into Tokyo and walking right into the Yakuza office with a gun and saying, listen, this is our fucking section. Yeah. And what are you going to do? Now, just flip that around and do that with the Mariella boat lift and the Cubans coming from nothing.
Correct.
And then they open up all of Miami, and then the Italians are going to come in and say, you know, no, that shit ain't happening. Not like that. Those Cubans are fucking crazy.
Well, it also, when you got nothing to lose, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. You got nothing to lose.
So, and this is going to kind of start with Anthony on this next question, and then Carlos, because I want him to weigh in. So, obviously, you know, the mob has historically been, Italian mob is in the U.S. has been historically opportunistic, whether it be prohibition and the like, right? Cocaine exploded in the 80s, right? You had Pablo through, Florida. You had the Cali in New York. Why didn't the mob, and I still don't get this, and nobody could ever fully like raise their hand and say, this is why. I don't get why the Italian mafia went to them and said, hey, we have the 26 cities, we have the heroin pipeline, we have the relationships, we have the ability, we'll take it off your hands at the port and just insert the coke into their heroin pipeline. I never understood why the Italian mob missed that opportunity. Anthony, why do you think that happened first? And I would like Carlos to weigh in next.
Because the old timers had a rule, no dope. No dope. I think Carlo Gambino was one of them, like one of the first guys. Dope was out of the question, right? They didn't like the dope, but they didn't have a problem with, you know, having girls on the corner sucking cock. That's okay, right? That's okay, but no dope. I mean, come on, right? So they had this rule, and if they found out they were peddling in dope, they were going to get whacked because they were worried that the feds weren't going to tolerate dope. They'll tolerate prostitution. They'll tolerate some gambling and shit like that. But when it came to drugs, so, you know, the bosses said no dope. However, we know a lot of the underground, you know, the soldiers and the capos, they're like, all right, no dope as long as I don't see it type of thing. So then the street guys are out there, and then this fucking DEA agent gets clipped, right? By a bad dope deal with the fucking, what the fuck was that guy's name?
Gus Faraci.
Yeah, Gus. That's right. Fucking from one of Chili's guys.
Yeah.
Chili's fucking guy from prison.
Yep.
He gets knocked off and kills a fucking DEA agent. Now, what kind of shit was that? So that's, to me, that's probably the only